Today is Friday, July 8th, and you know what that means. It is the Modern Mortgage Advisor tip of the week. So today's lesson is going to be centered around how you can be the most valuable player to your real estate partners and your clients by bringing them the most relevant and truthful content and data so that they can make more informed and confident decisions based off truth, guys. We have seen in the media, they are great at selling those headlines, aren't they? It's like tabloids lately where you see, is there a market crash coming? Are we in a housing bubble? And my challenge to you all today listening is what better way? In fact, I'm just so, can we just take a moment to be grateful at the fact that we at least have the opportunity through social media, through the internet, through email marketing or text message to finally get to the consumer and our partners and send valuable educational information to flush out these fear-based headlines. Whereas before, if we didn't have the internet or we didn't have social media, it made it a lot more difficult than what it is today. So if you're not fired up by the end of this presentation to rip off and duplicate some of these slides that I'm going to be sharing with you so that you can be the hero out there in your community, or maybe even to your agent partners who may be thinking, I'm like one deal away from getting out of the business, and we don't want that. Or that client who's thinking, I'm just so tired of making offers and losing to these all cash people that I'm just going to push the rent button because I was told we could have some foreclosures or short sales coming with all these double digit appreciation values. Surely it's all going to come crashing down, right? So if you want copies of these slides, I will make sure at the very end of this to leave my email address of how you can get copies. But I'm going to start with my favorite slide of them all. This is my favorite slide, and I can't remember who Josh quoted on this, but it was a wealth advisor who said, "Those who buy and wait become wealthier than those who wait to buy." So this is just a quick screenshot. Again, if you want to take a screenshot of this, go for it. But it shows the national average of cumulative appreciation since 1991. So if you see these green states, the green states, those were the ones who were actually 20% above the national average. If you're in the orange states, that's when it was 20% below national average. Thank God I'm in God's country, which is Texas. But guys, I just love this headline. I thought, what a powerful starting point or hook that you guys could all use, that after I go through each slide, you're going to be the most valuable lender in your market that can explain why we've seen appreciation levels in double digits, how to make more informed decisions on whether or not you should buy now or wait. And I'm going to be looking for all of you on Tuesday. I want to see some TCAs out there of the cost of waiting, either cost of waiting or rent to own. That's my challenge for y'all on Tuesday. So tag me. You can either, do the @ and do Deborah A. Byrd. That's my personal Instagram account, or plug-and-play_SM. I want to see your TCAs, and shout out to those. I don't have the list of names in front of me, so I apologize, but those of you who've been sending them, I appreciate it. I'm going to put them together and make sure that we have a showcase for all of you who are leveraging social, thank God, to show your TCAs to really help people make more informed decisions. So the first item that I want to talk about is there was a social media post that we made on this account, the Modern Mortgage Summit. Make sure you are following, make sure you hit the bell notification so that anytime we make new posts, they're always going to be data-driven, valuable information that you can share, whether it's at your branch meetings for trainings or for your real estate partners, again, in a mass email or text. But there was a post we made that showed in the last 6 years what the headline was of kind of these fear-based tactics. And I won't say her name, although it starts with the same initial as mine does. And she's the CNBC Senior Real Estate Coordinator. And we created a graphic that showed basically what the headline was and then what the truth said in numbers. Okay, so here's what post I'm talking about, or the slide where it's in a bigger view. So again, this shows in the last 6 years what the exact headline was from, again, that CNBC coordinator. Again, not mentioning her name, but if your clients possibly listened to the headlines or the news and got scared and said, you know what, let's just say in 2018, 2019, let's say that they pushed the pause button on buying because they just paralysis by analysis or the fear kept them from buying. Do you think they're kicking themselves in the rear ends right now for not buying? When you look at these national appreciation levels. In fact, I don't think there's any lender out there, a real estate agent, who has a client that's mad at them for convincing them to buy back in 2018, 2019, when you look at these national appreciation increases. So let's just look at this. In 2015, it said housing today, a bubble larger than 2006. 2017, homeownership doesn't build wealth, study finds. And in that year, we had 6.1% appreciation, 20,000 equity gain with the average home price of 353,000. Like what? 2019, the housing market is about to shift in a bad way for buyers with 4% appreciation, 15,000 still in equity gained, and 382,000 home price. So if you look at this, the cost of waiting 6 years, or the cost of this, is why your advice matters, because the way people make decisions is it's based on the advice that they get. Then they take action based off that level of advice. And we're talking about your largest financial decision of your life. So is there a difference between a great modern mortgage advisor versus a mediocre average loan officer? Absolutely. And if I'm taking advice from those people and maybe I'm not being given a TCA, then how do I know if I'm making the most informed decisions? You don't. So this is what it would have cost you. Oh, $222,000 in loss appreciation just by waiting. Now, Josh Mettle, when he presented this, said that that is the equivalent of $350,000 in income. 350,000. How else can you create income this quickly in such a short amount of time? Without real estate, you can't. So, and again, not a CPA, not giving tax advice, but with the standard deductions, whether you're single or married, we're talking about 222,000 tax-free dollars in appreciation. Your consumers and your agents need to see this, but they also need to understand why. Why did we still see appreciation levels? Why are we seeing double-digit appreciation levels today? And does that mean it's going to come all crashing down? So let's just take a look. Now, anytime you're looking at data, context is everything, right? Like, what are you comparing things to? Are we comparing it to last year when interest rates were at historical lows? When we're looking at inventory, are we considering demographics and birth rates? Who knows, right? So context matters. That's why I'm throwing this chart in here. And guys, if you guys want copies of these slides, remember, you can email me and I'll give you my email address at the very end. But let's just context wise, let's look at the number of households we had today or in 2021 versus 2007. Because most people are thinking housing crash, the first thing they think of is 07, 08. So a lot of the things I'm going to compare today is based off data from 07, 08. So keep in your mind as I go through these slides that we are still at 14 million more US households today than we were in 07. So just think of that with demographics. Okay, the first inventory data, and I'm going to preface this with there's the NAR total data for inventory, and then I'm going to show you the builders levels and where new builds fall into all this, and then I'm going to show you the FRED data, and there's a difference between the two. So I just want to give you that perspective of seeing the two different types of data from places that I trust. So let's look at NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors. Let's look at from 1992. The total inventory data. So you can see, I mean, typical seasonality really this week is when we kind of see the end of the big summer boom of inventory. So as inventory was increasing, I would suspect it to start to decrease as we head back towards the fall and winter, because typically summer we see increased inventory and then fall we see it drop a bit. So let's look at 07, 08. Where was inventory? Guys, that's where this X is. Inventory was at an all-time high. So we had a lot of inventory that came about. And I'll show you possibly why we saw appreciation levels where they were during this time versus now. So 2007, 2008, you can see this green line is the trend line for home inventory. So anything above, it kind of shows, again, this was way above the trend. And now we're seeing today, we are actually at record lows for inventory. So kind of scary. But that also just validates that there's a big difference when it comes to supply and demand and kind of why we're feeling inventory challenges and how it's different than 2007, 2008. Now let's go to the builder data. So builders just can't catch up, guys. We saw a lot of new builds coming about up into the Great Recession, and then it just kind of died down. And ever since then, this hole just hasn't been filled. So builders can't catch up. Now let's look at what the FRED data shows. So the FRED, which is just the Federal Reserve Economic Data. So this is again over the housing inventory. How the FRED's numbers differ than NAR is that they are only showing active listings or those that aren't under contract. So if we want to see how bad inventory really is, guys, if you look, this is based off May's numbers of this year, we had 516,000 active listings and 55% of those were under contract. So that's just how low our inventory is right now. Even though we've seen it come up a little bit, I suspect that it's going to come down come the fall and the winter. I could be wrong. I don't have a crystal ball. Last time I checked, it was a little fuzzy. So let's look at now what's going on with appreciation, because that was where there's a lot of concern that I've heard of. If we've had double-digit appreciations, eventually that has to all come crumbling down, right? Let's look at why and what's driving the appreciation. And again, context matters. So when we're looking year over year, the last couple of years, we've had some crazy things happen. We've had record low interest rates. We've also had a pandemic where people, believe it or not, made the inventory even worse because you had people renting that were like, forget this, I'm tired of renting. I want to buy. I want privacy, or I want more space. And so people were wanting to buy. So that's part of, again, supply and demand, that when we have supply that's down and demand is high, it's going to cause appreciation to go up. Or let's look at just from 2007 and 2008 data when appreciation was at its all-time low. So we're seeing kind of the opposite graph, right? In fact, my next slide, I will show you how the two graphs, when you take inventory and you put it on top of this one with appreciation, how the relationship is actually an inverse relationship. So when it came to appreciation, we saw record lows in 2007, 2008, but let's look at today. We're seeing record highs. Again, why is that? Well, let's look at this next slide. And again, hang with me. I know there's a lot going on this slide, but if you remember, the first one I showed you had the inventory, which is the gray line, is the housing inventory. Remember, the green line also was the trend of inventory versus the blue line, which is appreciation. And this red line just means zero appreciation. Okay. So you can see when you put these graphs on top of each other, just look at the blue and gray. It's an inverse relationship. So what happened in 2007? We had an oversupply. Well, when we had an oversupply, what did that do to the appreciation? It was at its lowest. Now let's look at today. We have an undersupply, low inventory. And what has that done to appreciation? Again, it goes back to just basic supply and demand. So why are values really going up? What's causing that? And, we have to also then throw in the inflation conversation of the fact that, inflation is basically an oversupply of money, or when you create more money than products, and that's going to obviously cause the products to be more expensive. So are homes more expensive today, or is it just that the dollar is also worth much less? So that's an argument there too. And basically the more money supply and less output, or less homes being built, or less inventory, then you're gonna see this inverse relationship. So if I'm an agent or a modern advisor today, how could I use this graph to go out and educate, whether that's through social media or even my real estate partners? What do we think inventory is going to do, looking at seasonality and watching the numbers, and what do we think that's going to do to appreciation? And is waiting really your best strategy? That's where, again, you'd have to show them the TCA and show them their cost over time, and just use that slide from earlier this week from the Modern Mortgage Summit, where we showed the headlines and the cost of just 6 years and what you missed out on. You don't want to be that person that misses out on that opportunity again, right? So tying it all back into the beginning, where, not only did you just see how low inventory is, what this doesn't show you, and this is why I was kind of saying context matters, is this doesn't show you the number of households or the demographics coming into the market, where, if I believe correctly, I want to say in May we had, it was close to this. It's about 23% of the buyers were all cash, and about 28% were first-time home buyers. most likely millennials. So this doesn't show, not only in compared to 1992, guys, look how low we are with inventory, but don't forget, we have 14 million more US households than 2007 with almost 3 million fewer homes for sale. So there's a huge difference between 2007, 2008 and today's market just with inventory and appreciation. The other factor I'll say that makes it extremely different and why we're not going to see all these foreclosures and short sales, which I was at a ball game and I heard someone say, I'm just going to wait till all the foreclosures and short sales come to the market. And that's what I'm going to buy. I want to get a buy that is a good deal. Well, let's just look at where we are when it comes to the mortgage debt versus total value versus total equity. And, I want to say, yes, in 2007, 2008, when we had too many people who were not qualified to buy and there weren't good loans and the products and the credit were bad. We know what happened with 2007, 2008. That was just the perfect cocktail of an explosion, to be perfectly honest. But let's look at since 2007, 2008, let's look at the mortgage debt. If you see this green line, it's really kind of flatlined, which shows me that we've learned we're making better decisions. We have better loan products. We have better credit standards, and consumers' behaviors have gotten better. We're no longer using our mortgage as our like personal ATM card anymore. So this is pretty incredible when you look at then the total, and this is in trillions. So the total value of US single family housing just from the first quarter of 2022 is 40.6 trillion with 27.8 in equity. So to put this in simple terms, let's just take, if we were going to take one house using the same numbers. So removing all the trillions and all the zeros, I don't even know how many zeros there are on that at the moment. But let's just look at one house. That would be saying you have a $406,000 home. That's what the value is, with only $128,000 debt. So if God forbid something happened, is this home going to be in a bad position where you're going to see a foreclosure or a short sale? I mean, when you look at these numbers, we're doing a lot better than what we were. So again, another reason just between inventory, appreciation, and then the total mortgage debt versus equity, and why this is nothing like 2007 and 2008. A reason why you shouldn't wait to just think there's going to be some good deal coming along that you'll be able to snag up. So I hope this helps. Let's make sure that we go out there together. We are amplifying these messages so that we are educating clients to make more informed decisions. I want you to be the most valuable player to your real estate partners, which means supplying them with these slides, supplying them with this education. Because again, they're on the front line, guys. They're in the battle zone and they have to be able to combat some of these objections, whether they're at an open house or at a new listing. How are we helping them be the captain of their wealth team with their clients while depending on us to give the research and the resources of what this presentation just provided? So that is why we do this every week. We want you to continue to come back to this page. We want you to be the most valuable player, the most educated player, so that you are not only capturing more market share and more real estate partners, but giving good advice so that families can make more informed decisions and continue to build wealth through real estate. So stay tuned, follow back up next week, hit the like or share button. Please show your teams, if you're a branch manager, share this out with your partners and the loan officers that you lead so that we can all together flush out those nasty fear-based headlines. All right, y'all take care.